Good morning and happy Good Friday. It's Mary Mathis here, founder and CEO of Latinorific, the 360-degree platform to help the American Latina be her best bicultural self. And today we have a special guest who is going to talk about something that we're not always comfortable to talk about. And no, it's not intimate acts. We're talking about money and finance. And we'll be joined by Soledad Tanner, who I call my downloadable CFO. And Soledad has a unique combination of skill sets that makes finance fun. So let's go live this morning. And our topic is going to be learn and earn. And what does it take how much does it cost and what does it take to start your own business? Good morning, Soledad. You're looking cheerful in red.
Good morning. Happy Friday. So happy to be here.
Yes. So it's interesting. We'll talk a little bit about you first for those that don't know you. But I just wanted to say that Latinos are opening more small businesses than anyone else in the United States today. They contribute over $5 billion to the U.S. economy. So I'm really looking forward to this subject. And as Latinas and Latinos continue to flee corporate America, especially women who've been disproportionately affected by the pandemic, the rate of small business opening is going to be a very interesting phenomenon and economic impact to our country. So I'm really delighted that we're going to be talking about this today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Soledad, because I've had the joy of working with you now for some time.
Yes. Well, I'm so happy to bring this topic forward, especially this year that is so important for so many people that have lost their jobs or have decided to reinvent themselves. My name is Soledad Tanner. I've been living in the U.S. for 26 years. I am originally from Ecuador with a Swiss-German background and very proud to now live in the South, in the place for Southern hospitality. I was in global corporate for 20 years, working for Deutsche Post DHL. In the finance areas, I had a controller career, first Houston, all the way to a global controller. And work also in strategy, performance, and metrics. So I love to measure numbers and performance and productivity and profitability. I think that's just how my brain is wired, right?
It's that Swiss-German influence, I think.
Yeah, I see opportunities all over the place, and I see revenue leakage, and I see opportunities to make more with what you have. And after that, I decided that it was enough time spent on learning in global corporate, traveling all over the world, which was fabulous, getting to know different places and cultures. I have lived in Germany, in Switzerland, in Montevideo, Uruguay, in Ecuador, and have worked in India, Brazil, and Mexico, and many places. And I decided that Houston was so incredible, powerful with all the businesses that were being open and the Hispanic community just exploding and more businesses open. And I saw a need of financial literacy for businesses. And that's what really got us here today. Like, it's important to know, to have the American dream, to think that you can, that you can provide better for your family and a better future for all of your community. But it's not enough to know your trade. That can be a doctor, an engineer, a carpenter, a baker, whatever it is. But it's important also to be connected and having the money talk. And in our cultures, especially among women, it's a topic that has been kind of on the side. And that's how I decided to open the business. I said, I'm going to be that person that it's going to generate that conversation. So we're no longer have these butterflies in the stomach when we have to talk about money. We have to be comfortable talking about money.
And I think it's interesting that you're doing this in Houston, because as the country's conversation is focused on diversity and inclusion, Houston is the most diverse city in the United States. Is that correct?
There's a saying that says, as Houston goes, the country goes. And we have here, I don't know exact number, but you can drive 5 minutes from here and you can eat Ethiopian food, Vietnamese food, Indian food, Colombian food, Venezuelan food. You can eat literally almost like New York, and I think even more. Any kind of food and any kind of business. You can go to the Indian town, the Chinatown, the Ecuadorian side of the city, and it's just magical. It adds flavor, salt, and pepper, and that's who we are here.
All right, so I'm going to set that as a goal to just eat my way across Houston. So,
oh.
All right, so now we have this amazing phenomenon of entrepreneurship from Latinos, and let's talk about Latinas because that's our platform, who have probably been disproportionately affected by the pandemic, are finding gender pay gaps, are not being treated the same as non-Hispanic white women in a corporate environment, are paid 53 cents on the dollar compared to corporate white men. Mm-hmm. And from the market research that Latinorific did on Latinas in corporate America last year with the Network of Executive Women, we found that they were leaving the corporate workplace in droves with a huge desire to set up small business. Now, you're very familiar with advising people, particularly the Latino community, about starting or operating their small business. And let's talk about 3 Ps. Let's talk about 10 steps. Let's talk about some of the challenges that are being faced in starting up a small business in the U.S. today.
You mentioned 53 cents per dollar. If you go and extrapolate out by state, in Texas, the average is 45 cents per dollar, so even lower. So the issue is real. And one of the things that studies have shown that it doesn't matter the level of education that you have. You could assume that the lower the level of education, that's what is affecting the average number more. But it's not true. It goes either if you have high school education or college education or university education. Studies have gone up to PhD educations. The payment gap continues to be the same, stable. So we have to address the core issues. The core issues, there are many. We can say it's cultural, we can say it's education, we can say that it's just a topic that the last 20 years we're getting more used to addressing. We can talk about our negotiation skills. We can talk about the power of asking, and we can talk also about the doubt syndrome. You know, like when I am, do I know enough? Am I ready to do it? But I think right now with the pandemic and with moving to work at home and taking care of the kids and helping them through schooling and taking care of the parents now also sometimes living at home too, because Latinas are a 3 generation, you know, all of the generations live together. We take care of the kids, the parents, the family. So what happened is many people made the decision that the family was more important, and it's a good decision. You need to have the freedom to make whatever decision you want. And now that triggers why don't I open a business? Well, I'm here taking care of what is most important for me. And it's at that point, what is happening is what I call the 3 Ps, right? Your passion added to your purpose needs to add to your profit. Meaning, if my passion is building houses, I love doing that. And the purpose is going to create better living for the community. That's wonderful. But the third element, the profit, is key for the sustainability of your business. So every time you're thinking, what do I do now? Or I want to start a business, it is important to make sure the 3 elements are taken care. And profit, it's key, because if you are doing well, if your business are doing well, you will generate not only wealth for you and your family, but also you will generate job opportunities for others in the community, and that has a multiplying effect among everyone.
And it's interesting to note that Latino entrepreneurs tend to skew a little bit younger, that roughly 33% are younger than 45, compared to 22% of the non-Latino entrepreneurs. But there's a certain amount of naivety as well, just about for anyone starting a small business. But again, not only do you have disparity in the corporate workplace, you have disparity in the lending markets, you have a mistrust of banking, credit card debt, you have a large group of people that are still a cash-based society. So based on all of these cultural nuances, let's talk about the basics, okay? The top 10 steps that you're going to take to start a small business. What is it going to take if someone is contemplating going into business for themselves?
Perfect. Number one, research the market. What kind of product or service you want to bring to the community? And who is your competition? Who is going to be your buyer? What truly are you going to sell? Normally you start with a vague idea or a general idea of what industry or segment you want to be, but it's important to know the market. So how do you do that? There are plenty of resources. For example, you can go to the public library and you will see resources about the city. There are resources like a score, which are complementary to people that you can go and say, I need a market research about selling flowers, or I need market research of the need of architectural firms in the city of Houston or the state of Texas. So there are many resources, even here locally. There's some in the city of Houston mayor's office. There's something called Office of Business Opportunity, where you can go and they will direct you to complementary resources. Because there is really a push for people to do well in this company. So number one is do some kind of market research. Either if it's basic, will allow you to see who is your competition, right? It's critical to see what are they offering and how are they offering. Number two is write a business plan. Okay, here people stop and freeze, and I said, that's too much work. I don't know how to do it. See, if at the very beginning you don't have to write a full business plan, but at least go through the elements. What is the purpose of your company? What is the legal structure that you're thinking you're going to have? An LLC, a corporation? Who are the partners of this company, right? But what are you going to have a partnership, or is going to be just you? What are the financials? This is key. So what are you going to sell? How many units? What is the pricing? And then here, if you're not familiar with this, that's where expert, like we do this here in the company, help you do projections. What are your sales projections? How long is going to take for you to break even? What is break even? So you really need to get deep into the numbers. What is the cost? That is, normally we kind of exaggerate the sales and minimize the expenses, and we should be doing the opposite, right? What is it going to take for you to build this company? How many people you're going to need for what areas, and what is the price for each one of the people? Maybe you start with contractors and then you move into employees. That how long will it take for you to launch the product? So there's a series of consideration that you have to just sit down and go over, even if they are not perfect. Remember, we're not looking for perfection. So here we're looking just as a starting point.
Couple of things. We use a program called Lean Stack to do our business planning, and I highly recommend it because you can create a one-page business plan on a canvas. So it takes some of that daunting task and really simplifies it. And the other thing I want to comment is there's some legal considerations too. So if you set up an LLC and other people are involved, you want to make sure you have a good management agreement documented, because things can, whenever you're dealing with human interaction and striving to achieve and money, there are every opportunity to have misunderstandings. So it's really good to have good documentation in place.
And also, sometimes there could be good faith misunderstanding. I heard something that you said and you meant something different. So the documentation allows you to be very specific. Remember, the closer, the deeper our friendship, the deeper we want to keep it because it's important to us. So sometimes just the misunderstanding, it's great to put it in paper. Many family arguments could be saved, and many friendships could be preserved if we sit down and write down a specific 1 through 10, what are the points of the agreement, especially when you have a partnership. And here we're going to talk about the importance of having a lawyer and having a contract. If you provide services, you need a contract. In the USA, you need a contract with your services, and it's worth it, every penny of your money, to go and have an appointment with a lawyer. And if you don't have one, call us. We will refer you to people that we have worked in the market, and you would choose whoever you want to. But it is really a very risky enterprise to be providing services, let's say in the construction industry, and you're building houses and you don't have a contract. I know we come from countries that sometimes the legal system has not have a priority, but in this country, you need contracts, you need non-disclosure agreements, you need contractors agreements, and if you don't know what they are, they're very common for the lawyer. In one session, they can at least let's educate ourselves on what are the needs, because it's important to work hard, but also we need to protect ourselves for what we don't know, right? So let's ask the question, what is the standard and customary here in the US for my industry? And the lawyers will tell you.
Okay, so you've started your business. Talk more about what you need to learn to earn, and let's talk about what percentage of money that you do earn should go back into the business, and what you can do to start a wealth management program.
So let's talk about money. Now we know what we want to do. We know the market. We have the lawyer. We have done the business plan. Very simple question. Where are we going to get the money from? Do we have savings? Is our personal situation clean? Meaning, if you're going to start a second enterprise, you need to start with the house. Meaning, do you have debt? How are you paying your credit card debt? Do you have loans? So I recommend that also you look inside and you look at your personal situation, because if you have a big debt, you probably are better off paying your personal first, or setting up a good plan to take care of your personal. Because as you're starting your business, either you're going to put your own money, or you're going to go to the bank to ask for a loan. And when you go for a loan, you have to sit in front of the banker and explain to the banker, what are you going to be doing? How are you going to be doing? Now you're convincing somebody else that your business idea is good enough for them to take the risk to give the money to you, and you have to be very clear in how you're going to be paying that back. That is simply the bank. The bank is giving you the money, and they expect not only the principal, but also the interest. So here is the point that we need to talk about. Where is the money coming? In the Hispanic community, because let's say it's the first generation, they just migrated here. Normally, in general, there are not a lot of assets that you can put as collateral in the bank. So you start a little bit behind, saying, okay, how are you gonna guarantee this loan? So in general, the number of collaterals when you're first generation are smaller than when you're second or third generation in the country. Then you have been able, your grandparents and your parents, to build wealth, and you can give some assets in collateral. So one of the disadvantages of the early immigration is that you're just in the generation that is building the collateral. So go talk to your banker, see what you can do, see if there are promotions with credit cards, 0% interest for 12 months, see if you can put your own savings. So talk about the money. And then figure out what are the costs and the prices and the timing where you're going to start seeing money. Is it going to take 6 months to sell the first item or the same service? Do you even have a contract of service with someone? Are you going to start like looking for your first client? What is the volume of sales that you think you could sell the first year? And so you need to ask, even if you don't have the answer, you need to start asking yourself these questions. And if the answer is not there yet, you put it on the side and then you come back later.
And do you create two scenarios, one like a best case scenario, and two, maybe I'm being overly optimistic because I love my idea and I think I'm brilliant and I know it's going to work, but just in case, maybe things go bump in the night and it doesn't happen exactly like I was planning, which is very often the case. So what is my worst case scenario and how can I prepare for that?
Correct. I at least recommend two scenarios. When you are doing like deeper planning, you at least do three scenarios: the realistic, the pessimistic, and the super optimistic. But if you start with two, it's good enough. Say, okay, let's say I start the company today and I don't get a client for 6 months, but I'm promoting myself, I'm going to networking events, I'm calling on my friends, I'm explaining them my service, and hopefully I will have this. But what happens if the first big contract doesn't come for a year? You're building and building and building and building until it comes. So you have to say, okay, best scenario 3 months, worst scenario a year. Obviously, it's different when you sell products and products. Like, so let's say you sell flowers. Of course, you're going to have some sales at the very beginning. Maybe your neighbors and your friends start buying you. But when are you going to get that level of the volume that is going to give you enough to pay for the basic cost, the cost that you incur every month, like, you know, the rent, the electricity, the insurance, etc. So
and what is your marketing strategy to get there?
That's another thing. So it's very interesting because marketing is kind of sexy and it's colorful and pretty. And there's a tendency to spend money in marketing without really, sometimes too early or too much. So what I recommend is you have to really think, who is your client? You don't have to be in all social medias if you market and spend money and time building tools that will get you to people that are not your target clients. So who is your client? Where can I find your client? So if your client is in construction and they are 50 years and older, they probably are not going to be in Instagram because Instagram is a younger platform. If your target is, if you're a lawyer and you want to promote your services among professionals, your target is going to be LinkedIn. So, work with marketing experts to determine, even if it's not a fancy, full-blown strategy, where is your market and who do you want your client to be, so you don't spend not only money but very valuable time trying to get to clients that will not add to the wealth and the purpose of your company.
And then
so that's
what is there a formula for how much you should put back into the business and how much you should take out? You know, are you paying yourself a salary? Are you just taking the profits? What are the tax implications? There's so much that we need to cover in this short half an hour. We're going to create a finance channel, you and I, Soledad.
We will, because I want people to start thinking about this and at least make a difference in somebody who is saying, okay, I'm gonna think and I'm gonna follow these 3 questions, and that got me thinking and starting in a solid ground. So let's talk about marketing. I get many times I get this question: how much should I spend in marketing? If you Google that question, you're gonna get in Google an answer that you should spend 7%. That all depends and is relative. Some companies, 7% of what? Of $100,000, of $10 million, and also what kind of industry are you, and how do you find your clients? So don't force yourself to spend 7%. Sometimes all you need is 1 or 2% of your sales. So it depends of the level of sales, and it depends of the level of marketing that you need to sell your products and services. If there are only two people like you in the market, then you probably, people are coming at a higher rate that you can even support them. So you need to measure that specific to your business, right? Hire a professional, somebody who understands your business, listens to you, and goes with your budget. In reference of paying you, this is a topic that I want to address. One thing I hear all the time, oh, I'm doing that because it's free. I want to just kill that statement. Nothing is free. No, absolutely nothing is free. If you, as the CEO, owner, founder of the company, are performing a task, that task has a price. The fact that you're not paying yourself is different, but that task has a price tag. And start thinking about, you have a limited resource of time and energy, and that time and energy needs to be used in the most productive way. So if your time is spent having a lunch with a potential customer where you can close a business, you shouldn't be filing your documentation in the file cabinet, because you can hire somebody for a lower rate while you are building the wealth of your company. So make sure there's an accurate distribution of tasks with the money, so you don't, it's not free. You're taking away from the probability of doing something that you should be doing. So that's I don't want ever to hear, oh, that's free, I do it myself. Because if you have nothing else to do, maybe. But I'm sure as an owner of a company, you have a million other things to do that can benefit the growth of your company. In respect of paying yourself, there is a probability, depending on the company, that you are going to have a time that you are not going to be able to pay yourself. Because if you start with reduced amount of money, you may have to wait a little bit until you break even. Again, break even is when your expenses and when the income that you receive for selling your products or services match the volume of your expenses, right? So when you hit break even, I highly recommend that you start paying yourself. And how much is that? So first, I said you need to do a budget, your personal budget, right? So Mary and Soledad need to know how much I need to leave. So let's say that I need $1,000 to leave, the basics. So I pay rent, insurance, car, etc. So if I know that my core basis with no luxuries is $1,000, then I recommend that you start paying at least your basic expenses. And then you have to have a second budget that you say, okay, my basic expenses are 1,000, but if I add additionals that are nice to have but not necessary, for example, I don't know, clothing or going out for dinners, etc., let's say it's 1,500, just to give a number. So if your business is doing better, now you start paying you the second budget, the must-have with the nice-to-have, and then you take it from there.
And it's nice to have those goals and expectations where you set up KPIs, key performance indicators,
yes.
Right?
Correct.
Where you've got very set goals that you strive to achieve. Because without those measurements in place, it's very easy, I know, it's very easy to just paddle your canoe in circles or in winding paths. We have just one more minute, Soledad, from STC Consulting in Houston, and Latinarific really values you on so many levels. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for our guests today? And obviously, we look forward to spending many more sessions talking about the great subject of money and business.
Time flies when you're having fun. I could talk about this all day long. So number one is, what it doesn't get measured, it doesn't get managed. So you need to measure. So as we talk about nice to have, basics, so those are your goals. The same in the company. Good outcome extraordinary outcome, positive in your budget. So have those elements. And I also I challenge each one of our viewers to have the money talk, to take ownership on your money. Not because we don't trust other people, because we are in charge. We're in the driver's seat. And if you drive, you decide when you turn right or left with your GPS. If you make a mistake, you just come back, but you are driving. And remember that financial knowledge gives you freedom. So please, please know your numbers. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Soledad Tanner. I always enjoy talking to you. You make finance fun. All right. Terrific. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and in Twitter. And have a wonderful Easter weekend. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Talk to you soon.
Bye for now. Thank you.